Hey guys, this is Fishing with Phelan, and I'm Nathan Phelan. Um, I was at a sporting goods store on Saturday last week, and I was talking to another angler, and we're both tournament guys, right? I do a local league. I think he does something else a little bit more extensive than what I do. But we were talking rods and reels, and I was just thinking as I was driving home, like, man, somebody should, needs to do a video about what you need to get started as a co-angler in a tournament series. And I'm just doing a simple Wednesday nighter, right? And so I usually bring 4 or 5 rods, and I stick to maybe 1 or 2 of those rods. But as I was thinking about this on my drive home on Saturday, I was like, you only really need about 6 rods, right? Depending upon where you live in the country, you could probably do more or less. In Minnesota, where I live, I could probably do less, right? So up here, you need a drop shot / Ned rig rod. So that's going to be your 611 to 7.1 medium light. And it's going to be fairly sensitive, depending upon what you can find and the price point. And you're going to spend anywhere from 100 to 300 or more, depending upon what you want to do, like how much you want to spend, right? And then your second spinning rod is probably a medium, anywhere from 7.1 to 7.3, 7.4, maybe 7.6 if you're making longer casts or you want that extra line pickup when you set the hook, right? And these are gonna, for me, I go 25 to 3,000 size spinning reels. I don't see any need to go to a 4,000. That's my personal preference, right? And it's usually 10 to 14 pound braid to a 10 to 12 pound leader on all my spinning rods. Sometimes I will drop down to 8 pound fluoro or 8 pound braid if I just need more finesse. And then from there, you can, as you transition, you can have 3 spinning rods, one set up more for wacky rigs, just like you're around docks and laydowns, or you're skipping around on cover. So, or you can have 2 medium heavies, one for a jig, one for a chatterbait. Up here in Minnesota, chatterbait's a really killer bait. Same with a swim jig. Spinnerbaits work well later in the season or earlier in the season when the water's cooler. But I mean, generally with the amount of pike and muskie we have up here, spinnerbaits are a little bit tougher, a little bit more niche. Let's just say that, right? So a good medium heavy 2 or 3, or you can drop one of the casting rods and go with a heavy, medium heavy, excuse me, and that way you can frog and do a little bit of lighter flipping and pull fish away from cover and out of cover. But generally when I'm looking at my medium heavies, I'm running 2 to 3 of those in my boat as a co-angler. And it's usually a jig, a Senko, and a spinnerbait or a chatterbait. Yeah, or a swim jig. So that moving bait rod does everything for me. It does spinnerbaits, chatterbaits, swim jigs, buzz baits. And I'm typically throwing that on fluorocarbon, 18 pound sniper. That's what I've got right now. And then my jigs are usually 17 pound fluoro or 40 to 50 pound braid. Not because I need the torque, I'm fishing heavy stuff, but I can. It's what I have confidence in, right? So you got the medium light, the medium, you got the 2 medium heavies. Number 5, this is when is a heavy, usually a frog rod. Frogging up here in the late summer, you do pretty well. So I run a 7-foot heavy and then that's spooled with 50-pound braid on my reel. And I can flip, shallow cover or lighter vegetation. I'm not going to sit there and try to punch mats with my rod. It's just not going to happen. So number 6, right? You can either drop one of the medium heavy castings for a crankbait rod, depending upon where you live, or you can just keep it like simple and run, another medium heavy or a heavy for, big jigs or big worms, Texas rig baits, stuff like that, or you want that extra power setting the hook, right? But the point is, you don't need a lot. And I think in our culture, in our fishing culture, like, you can spend a whole lot on rods and reels and do not a lot with it. And you don't need, I guess what I'm trying to say is, you don't need a lot of gear to get started as a co-angler. Probably a couple spinning rods and a couple bait casters, and you're set. Unless you're doing really technique specific stuff where it's like, you gotta have this for that. Like if you're throwing a crankbait, you don't want to try to throw that on a medium heavy fast action. You're gonna hook a fish and you're gonna pull the bait right out of its mouth because the rod is too stiff. Or, you're flipping cover because you live in Florida and you're flipping a 2-ounce weight or a 1.5 ounce weight, or you're on the Delta and you're flipping like a 1 1/4 or 1.5, and like, you need a flipping stick for that, right? Or a punching stick, and that's where it's like, okay, look at the vegetation that you're fishing, look at the cover, look at where the fish are relating, and just get the rods designed for that, and you can be efficient and effective. A lot of times when I'm fishing with my buddy, you've seen probably in some of the videos if you watched them, I'm either throwing a swim jig, a spinnerbait, a frog, or a drop shot, or a Senko, right? And I don't need I don't need like 6 or 7 or 12 rods, right? Because I'm bringing out maybe 5 or 6 a night, and I'm probably only going to use like half that, if that. So think about what you need, think about what you're fishing and how you're fishing, and I guarantee you can do way more with less. So, and the reason I made this video isn't because I'm the most qualified. I'm probably the least qualified in many ways to make this video, but I think it's something that needs to be talked about, because we just focus in on, gear and baits, but we don't really think about the system of rods that we have to accomplish these techniques. So get out there, catch some fish, and have a good time. Take care.